Have you ever stopped to wonder how something massive, like a redwood tree or even a person, is actually built? Well, the secret isn't some single giant blueprint. It's actually trillions of tiny workers, all playing for the same team. Today, we're going to dig into their rulebook, these fundamental building blocks of all complex life, tissues. So let's get right to it.
So, this is the perfect place to start. I mean, it's a great question, right? Wouldn't it just be simpler to have one giant supercell doing everything? But it turns out nature gave that idea a hard no. See, it figured out a long time ago that specialization, having experts for every single job, is the absolute key to being efficient and, well, surviving. Okay, so take a look here. On the left, you've got something like an amoeba. That single cell is a total jack-of-all-trades frantically trying to do everything by itself. But then on the right, you see multicellular life. And here, it's all about teamwork, a division of labor. You have cells that form specialized teams, some just for moving, others just for sending messages, and others for defense. It's this exact teamwork that unlocks all the mind-boggling complexity we see in the world. And that brings us right to our star of the show, this dedicated team of specialized cells. Well, that's what we call a tissue. Just think about it. Muscle, blood, even the plumbing system in a plant. In every single one of these cases, tissues are that essential bridge that takes individual cells and turns them into a fully functioning organism.
But here's the cool part. How are these tissues actually designed? It completely depends on the kind of life they're built to support. An organism's daily grind, its lifestyle, totally shapes its internal architecture. And you can see this so clearly when you look at plants and animals. They took wildly different evolutionary paths, and believe me, their tissues tell that story perfectly.
And this chart just lays out the two different strategies perfectly. Think about it. Plants are stationary. They don't move, right? So they invest a ton in rigid structural support. And a lot of that is actually dead tissue, like wood. But animals, we're built for movement. And that takes a lot of energy. So pretty much all of our tissues are alive and buzzing with activity. Even the way we grow is different. Plants grow from very specific spots, like the tips of their roots and stems, while animal growth is way more uniform. The key takeaway here, the big idea, is that lifestyle dictates design. It's as simple as that.
All right, so let's dive into the world of plants first. I mean, their entire tissue system is just an engineering marvel. It's brilliantly designed for a life spent stuck in one spot, right? Reaching for the sun and pulling water up from the ground.
So how does a plant even build itself? Well, it all kicks off with something called meristematic tissue. The easiest way to think about this is like the plant's own perpetual construction zone. These are just endlessly dividing cells right at the very tips of the roots and stems. And as new cells are churned out, they go through a process called differentiation. Basically, they pick a career, commit to it, and then they lose the ability to divide. And that's how they form the stable, permanent tissues that make up the rest of the plant. Now, these permanent tissues, they kind of come in three main flavors. First, you've got parenchyma. This is your basic all-purpose filler tissue that also stores food. Then there's collenchyma. That's the flexible stuff. It's the reason a young stem can bend and sway in the wind without just snapping in half. And finally, you've got sclerenchyma. This stuff is pure heavy armor. We're talking hardness and serious structural strength.
And here's the perfect example to make this stick. You know that incredibly tough, fibrous husk on a coconut? The stuff that's almost impossible to get through? That is pure sclerenchymatous tissue. It's literally made of dead cells with these massively thick walls, all designed for one thing and one thing only: ultimate protection. It's basically nature's body armor for the precious seed inside.
Okay, but it's not all just about structure. Plants also have this amazing, complex plumbing system. You've got the xylem, which acts like a bundle of microscopic straws, just pulling water and minerals straight up from the roots. Then there's the phloem. That's the plant's food delivery service, shipping all the sugary food made in the leaves down to every other part of the plant. Together, they form what's called the vascular bundle, which is basically the plant's lifeline. Okay, now let's switch gears and see how all of this compares to the super dynamic world of animal tissues.
All right, time to pivot to the animal kingdom. See, for us, life is all about movement, quick responses, and, finding food. And this lifestyle demands a completely different set of biological tools. It all starts with our tissues.
So, in the animal world, tissues are pretty much sorted into four major groups. You've got epithelial tissue for covering and lining things, connective tissue for support and, well, connecting stuff, muscular tissue for all our movement, and nervous tissue for that lightning-fast communication. So let's take a quick look at each one. First up, we've got epithelial tissue. Think of this as your body's personal security force and its border control, all rolled into one. I mean, yeah, it's your skin, but it also lines your mouth, the inside of your lungs, all your blood vessels. The cells are packed super tight, like shoulder to shoulder, to form this incredible barrier that controls exactly what gets in and what gets out.
Okay, next up is connective tissue. And this category is just wildly diverse. I mean, isn't it kind of amazing that liquid blood and solid bone are actually considered the same type of tissue? It's crazy. This group also includes flexible cartilage and those tough ligaments and tendons that hold our entire skeleton together. The one thing they all have in common is that their cells are kind of scattered around in some kind of non-living matrix.
And this leads to a classic biology puzzle that might have you scratching your head. Blood is a liquid, right? So how on earth can it be called a connective tissue? It doesn't seem to bind anything together, not like a ligament does. So what in the world is it connecting? And the answer is just brilliant. It connects the body functionally. See, blood creates this transportation superhighway for oxygen, for food, hormones, waste products. And by doing that, it links every single distant part of your body into one cohesive communicating system. It really is the ultimate connector.
All right, now let's talk about the engines of our body, muscular tissue. We've got two main types. There's the voluntary kind, the muscles in your arm that you consciously decide to move to pick something up. And then you have the incredible involuntary muscles. These are the smooth muscles in your digestive system and the cardiac muscle of your heart, which, thankfully, just run on autopilot 24/7 without us ever having to think about it.
And last but definitely not least, we have nervous tissue. You can think of this as the body's own high-speed internet. It's made of these super specialized cells called neurons. They make up the brain, the spinal cord, and this huge network of nerves that can zip signals around the body in just fractions of a second. This is what allows for thought, for sensation, and for you to react instantly to the world around you.
So let's pull all of this together. We've seen how both plants and animals are built from these amazing teams of cells, right? But they use completely different game plans, and it's all dictated by their specific way of life.
And that really is the crucial takeaway here. Real biological complexity isn't about having bigger cells. It's about having better teamwork. This elegant idea of dividing up the labor into specialized tissues, that's the quantum leap. That's what separates a simple little amoeba from a soaring eagle or a massive sprawling oak tree.
Which leaves us with one final, pretty cool thought to chew on. We've established that specialized cells team up to create tissues. But what happens when you take it to the next level? What kind of amazing functions do you get when different tissues, like muscle, nervous, and connective tissue, all team up to work together in a single structure? Well, that's where the story of life gets even more interesting.